All right, everybody. So, sorry for a few minutes delay. Wasn't too bad, but we've got some. Okay, wait a second. Now I'm getting a feedback. Wasn't too bad, but we've got some. Wait a second. Now I'm getting a feedback. Hold on. That should not be happening. Okay, let me see here. So, let me see here for the means. I've got that. And let me look at the options here. Monitors off. I should not be getting any feedback at all. All right. I checked this out pretty carefully. Okay, I'm not picking up any feedback now. So, is the echo gone? Yeah, the echo is gone. No echo. Okay. Oh, wait a second. I think I know what's happening. The echo was coming from another computer. Yeah, I had to upgrade a lot of stuff since the last Spotlight because we had some audio problems in the last Spotlight, and so I think I fixed all that. In addition, we had some power problems because there's the summertime late afternoon thunderstorms happening, and in fact, this week right now they're there as well. So I had to add an uninterruptible power supply to the lights and the camera. And of course the internet is all connected with an uninterruptible power supply, same as the computers and everything. But now the lights and the camera are an uninterruptible power supply is a battery type backup thing. It's a really good one. And so if the power goes out, the machines keep functioning, including the lights. All right, so I think we're ready. So let's just check the audio levels now. So let me check the numbers now. Yeah, the numbers seem okay. So now I just need you guys to tell me if the audio is okay. How does the audio sound? Okay. So what about the audio now? Guys, I'm waiting for you to respond in the chat. So, guys, what about in the chat? Tell me. I can see myself moving, so people need to you need to tell me if the audio sounds okay. Oh, wait a second. I had to move my chat. Sorry, it's my problem. Sorry. Okay. Audio sounds fine. Audio perfect. Good. So we're ready to go. Okay. Now, what is this sort of Adobe's? Okay. Audio is good. All right. So, we're ready to begin. Okay. So, I'm going to begin at the beginning. I'm sorry. It's a joke. It's an internal joke. There was an African leader a few years back who could not pronounce the word beginning. And he tried so many times, he was calling it beninging. Anyway, he was a nice guy. Well, sort of, he was whatever he was, but it was funny to see that it was an internal African joke. A lot of Africans were looking at it and looking at how a president couldn't pronounce something correctly. All right, well, anyway, so we're beginning at the beginning. Okay. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second July Spotlight in 2026. And this is hopefully going to be the most memorable summer humanity's ever had. We'll see. Maybe it won't turn out to be anything special, but we're gonna expect something is potentially there. It may not happen this summer. It may happen next year or next summer, whatever, but there's never been a more pregnant time right now. But I'm going to be going over that. Now, this interesting spotlight is interesting because it follows the release that we just had of the ET board meetings. And the ET board meetings was really fascinating. Now, we actually recorded that in April, so we're a couple months behind, but on purpose, because it takes us a while to process these things. We got 6 cameras going, 6 mics, really good mics, all in a boardroom meeting, coordinating everything, getting everything right. And so we come out with one a month, but they're not, they're a couple months delayed. Anyway, this was the April one. And that was where Ebonique, my hybrid ET daughter, came. And she was the one, I had no idea, nobody had any idea what she was going to talk about. But she was there, and she was the one leading the discussion. And everybody at Farsight can see her. Now, I know that other people would not be able to see her, but we have no trouble. We've been spending years in learning how to see and hear, perceive these beings. And I'm going to be explaining more about that and why it's so important for you to know this. But she was there. And she was really, really powerful. She really likes coming to these meetings, or on the meetings that we have sometimes on the beach. She's a little funny on the beach, actually. Every time I've been with her on the beach at night, middle of the night, she won't stop. She won't let go. She knows that her brother, my son Aziz, has had lots of time playing at the beach and the water and everything like that. She misses that. She wishes she could have that. So when she gets a chance to meet with me on the beach, normally when we meet, it's on the ships, but when we meet on the beach, she doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to end the meeting. I have to ask for help, like Harvey or someone, to sort of help wrap it up. But anyway, she was at the board meeting, and she considers the Farsight girls, all of the girls at Farsight, the remote viewers, to be her sisters. And of course, she considers Aziz her brother, and she has some genetic connection to him as well. But the point is, she considers all the Farsight girls her sisters. Now, everybody up on the ships are test tube babies, so they consider the idea of brothers and sisters a little differently than normal humans do. But she really has a very close connection with all of the Farsight girls as sisters. And this was really special because she apparently had never had an experience holding a human baby, and she really wanted that. She wanted that, so she went through a lot of hoops. First of all, she had to ask permission to be at the ET board meeting, and she works up at the ship, so she had to get permission. Secondly, she had to ask Kamaya, because it's Kamaya's baby, brand new baby, for permission. Would you allow her to hold the baby? And so Kamaya had to give her permission to do that. Now, when it was actually done in the board meeting, you can see it. And it's really interesting. That's what the intro is all about. And everybody was just about in tears when we were watching it. It was so moving to see. She was, Ebonique, she was crying inside. I mean, she was like, it was her first time to actually hold a baby. Because they don't have babies up there like we have babies down here. They have their test tube babies, and they're all raised sort of in a community, and it's just not like here. But then her sister Kamaya actually had a baby, and so Ebonique had her chance to hold the baby. Anyway, it was really a moving thing, and that was the ET board meeting. But it was also about family, and so that is why Ebonique, she led the meeting, and that's why she was talking about family and disclosure and the whole thing. So the whole thing is about disclosure, and why family is the whole point of disclosure. And it's the whole point of why you're not being told the truth about anything regarding disclosure right now. It's really a very, very challenging situation to come up with anything that's truthful about the disclosure process from anyone that's talking out there. They're always focusing on, like, was this fuzzy dot a real thing on a video recording or whatever. So it's quite clear that disclosure is coming, and the United States Department of War, which used to be called the Defense Department, is clearly marching in the direction of disclosure. So it's split. The Pentagon split. Half of the people, I don't know what the exact percentages are, but half of them don't want anything to deal with disclosure, and the other half desperately want disclosure. So there's a struggle, but the half that does want disclosure is carefully moving forward one step at a time. There's going to be limits on what they do, but still, it's interesting. Okay, so, and then I'm going to be going into some other things that's really important. But first of all, let me show you the intro for the ET board meeting, so you get an idea of the thing. Now, Ebonique, her picture is an AI picture, of course. In the video here, but that I'm going to show you, and it's not as pretty as Ebonique. Now, I know I'm prejudiced and biased, but the AI did not make Ebonique as pretty as she actually is. But nonetheless, you'll be able to see my daughter. Okay? And let's actually give me a second here to actually do it. And here we go. Oh, actually, yeah, go ahead. Hello everyone, welcome to the April ET board meeting at Farsight, and today is a really special day. We have two special guests. We have, again, in addition to our normal crew, we have Ebonique, my daughter, as the ET representative, and Kamaya's got her little baby. So if you hear any baby sounds during the meeting, well, that's where that's coming from. All right, so now we're back, and so so let me explain a little bit about this. So that's the beginning of the ET board meeting. Now you can see that the whole thing goes on for I guess about an hour. It goes on for a long time, but you can see the whole thing on farsightprime.com. And you know, folks, we honestly cannot put this stuff up on YouTube. YouTube is so different than it used to be in the past. Farsightprime.com is the only place we can put this type of stuff. So anyway, let me just go through a few things. First of all, the idea of family is really important. Now, an AI video could easily place any ET image, totally realistic looking, into any video. So if we actually had a picture of Ebonique, or any of the ETs we work with, that was actually real, you would have no way of knowing that. And you would easily just discredit it, the whole thing. So we're looking for total authenticity. A video is not any guarantee of authenticity. You need to judge authenticity by how you feel about it intuitively, deep, deep, deep inside. There's no other way. All ET communications, all are telepathic. So, I mean, among some ET groups, they do have sounds that they make and words and things like that. But dominantly, their communication methods across species and even among themselves is telepathic. So the goal is not to dumb down their communications to what you already know how to do, which is verbal communications. There's only one option that will work. If you want to be saved, if you want to get out of this prison planet, if you want to interact with the galaxy out there, working with words is not going to do it. Getting humans to be able to talk to the ETs the way all ETs communicate is the only route forward. And that means telepathically. So that's one of the main reasons you need to watch our ET board meetings. You absolutely need to watch them to see how authentic they are and for you to learn how it is done. Because all of our Farsight members, you know, improve as the time goes on with learning how to do this. First of all, they had to work for years doing remote viewing to get used to perceiving minds and things like that, and remote viewing physical things to get to be able to see things that other people can't see. That was years. It was years for each one of them. And then they had to improve in a situation where there are one or two ETs are literally in the room. Sometimes there's three, and and they have to see them and talk to them. That took time. And we've been recording our ET board meetings for a long time. And if you go back to the beginning and start watching them, you can see a constant improvement with how all of the viewers are interacting with them personally. And so in the beginning, for example, a lot of them were talking about things like, well, I'm perceiving this, I'm perceiving that. And then it evolved into talking directly with the ETs and saying, so are you telling me this? You know, direct communication. So that you can see how that's done. It's not something that you just know how to do immediately. And so you need to actually watch the ET board meetings to get an idea of this. Now the ETs, the so-called good ETs, the ones that we work with, they absolutely want to talk with you very much. And if you want their help, they will help. They want to help. They want to help you be able to speak with them. So the board meeting, the ET board meeting, is important on a number of levels. It's clear from everyone in the room that everyone can see Ebonique, my ET daughter. And it's also clear how much Ebonique values the communications with her sisters, her brother, and with me. It's totally authentic. And it is important to see Ebonique interact with a real human baby, to know how real the family connections are between the ETs and the humans. You can actually see Ebonique putting her arms around Kamaya and the baby, and then Kamaya is talking about it while it's happening, what it feels like, how she feels it. She can absolutely feel Ebonique. She can feel the warmth of her body. She can feel everything. Okay, so you need to actually see that and judge based on that. Okay? All right. Now I'm actually going to be showing you some government released a UAP footage, and that'll be very interesting because it gives you an idea of what's happening with regard to the timeline. But right now I want to pivot and talk about the timeline. And I've said many times on this spotlight that July is really important. Now that doesn't mean disclosure is going to happen in July. It may not happen until next year or the next year after that or whatever, but its most pregnant time, and there's a lot of pressure, is to happen this July. So there's only 3 weeks left of July. So let me explain what's going on and why July is so important. President Donald Trump is in a very difficult situation, and I'll explain more about that. First of all, the bad ETs are placing him in a seemingly impossible situation. He's struggling with the economy, with the Iranian and the Ukrainian wars, and there's a lot of pressure because of that to put off the disclosure situation. And please do not think for a second that this is accidental. This is the struggle that's going on right now. So if Donald Trump does not do any disclosure stuff, then he will have totally missed the greatest opportunity any president has ever had on this planet. And it's never going to get better. There's no, if he's waits another year or another 2 years, it's never going to get better. And if he doesn't do the disclosure thing this summer, his presidency will be at the total mercy of the bad ETs. And the bad ETs, they only want to control. They do not care about Donald Trump. They just want their control. So this is the timeline. We've got July, which is now, August and September. So we've got elections and politics. Now, the disclosure moment, whenever it happens, and I'm not expecting Donald Trump or whoever does the disclosure to dump the entire kitchen sink out, but something's got to be said. The disclosure moment will be followed, listen carefully, by a week of chaos in the news and the markets, stock markets and stuff like that. It's going to be a week of chaos across the entire planet. Okay? That's what's going to happen with the disclosure moment. Just acknowledging that the extraterrestrials exist. Period. That's it. There's going to be chaos for a week. Now, the following month will be where posturing can be done. Now, posturing is very important, especially for a sitting president. You need time to be able to control the agenda and to be able to control what's being said. That's posturing. You get to take credit for the disclosure and for everything else. That's posturing. August is the only month available for posturing. So if the disclosure moment happens in the third week of July, then the fourth week of July is chaos with the markets and the news and the media and so on. Starting August 1st is the beginning of the posturing month. And his sons are interested in the UAP, UFO stuff a lot, and they know a lot. I know for a fact they know a lot. That's a perfect time for them to go on podcasts. It's a perfect time for various people in the administration to be talking about the importance of this moment, etc., etc., etc. And then in September, we begin the election campaign cycle in the United States for the midterm elections. So posturing is not possible then. You can't have the disclosure moment during the campaign. And you can't do the posturing during the campaign because everything is fighting and battling. You need a time when the news cycle is low to do the posturing. And that's August. There is no other month that could be done. So if it's put off until September, the uniqueness of the disclosure moment will be lost in the electoral chaos. And everyone will be saying, this is just another example of the chaos of Donald Trump. That's what they're going to say. So, the only logical timeline is disclosure during the third or fourth week at the most of July. Now, that doesn't say it's going to happen. So don't tell people that I'm predicting it to happen for sure or anything. I'm just telling you that the only logical timeline is for disclosure to happen during the third or fourth week maximum of July. It's better that it happens in the third week of July so that the fourth week of July can be the week of chaos. And then posturing happens in August. And then campaigning for the midterms really happens in earnest in September and October. And you can't do any good disclosure stuff or posturing during the campaign. Now, what's happening is that the wars are being used and will be used to distract Trump and his advisors from the real picture. So in reality, the wars cannot be solved without disclosure. The wars are a bad ET creation to keep humanity in a constant state of turmoil and chaos. For example, I listen to a podcast often by Glenn Deason. He's a scholar, an academic in Europe, and he's really interesting, and he has a lot of people on there. And they're always talking about the wars and the changes that's going on in the wars, and he's not talking about disclosure or anything like that. And all of the people are looking myopically, nearsightedly at just the stuff involved with Donald Trump and the wars and the various nations and the various people involved, and they really can't see any exit from that. They're caught into that loop. And it's interesting from a political point of view, but they can't see that there's a bigger picture going on. And so that's one of the really interesting things about all of the local media. So Glenn Deason's podcast is one of the most high-end discussions you can get of the war situation in Iran and as well as Ukraine. But you don't get anything outside of that. You don't get a camera sort of pulling back and saying, what does the extraterrestrials have to do with any of this? What do the UAPs have to do with anything like this? So they're not connecting the dots. Nobody's connecting the dots or pulling away and seeing the larger picture. The reality is, however, that the wars can't even be solved without disclosure. You have to stop the baddie team manipulation of the politics in order to stop the wars. The wars should be sounding totally chaotic and nutty, making no sense to you. And that's what they're supposed to be. That's exactly the design of them. They're supposed to be totally chaotic, and they're supposed to make you feel as if the world is out of control. And the last thing you want to do is think about disclosure when in fact the world's out of control. That's the purpose. That's exactly the purpose, and that's what's been going on for a huge amount of time. Okay, So when looking at how wars, crises, and external calamities are used to function, to distract national or world leaders from sort of existential priorities, eventually driving them towards strategic blunders and political self-destruction, that's what's going on now. Well, I found 4 prominent scholars who really stand out. And then after we do that, I'm going to go through the scholars so you can see. I want to return to some actual UAP footage, but this one released by the U.S. government, and then it'll really put it clear. Holy Moses! So that's what's going on. It's clear that the government knows that these things are real, and they're not. What's to struggle with disclosure? You'll see what's going on right now. So these 4 scholars really help pinpoint what's going on right now. Now, their work spans political science, history, and psychology, and they offer different angles on how this strategic distraction and cognitive overload happen. So it's really important that you understand their different perspectives, okay? All right, here we go. The first scholar I'm going to be talking about is Barbara W. Tuchman. Now, that's Tuchman, okay? And she sort of deals with it from the perspective of historical political folly. Now, her core concept is the pursuit of policy that's contrary to a leader's own ultimate self-interest due to systemic distraction and cognitive blindness. Okay? Now, here's her key argument. In her foundational book, this is the big book, The March of Folly, From Troy to Vietnam. That's her book. From Troy to Vietnam. Tuchman examines why intelligent leaders consistently get dragged into peripheral conflicts or maintain disastrous policies while ignoring far more critical looming issues. This is not a new thing. This has been around. This is not just Donald Trump. This has been around for a long while. And this scholar, Tuchman, she argues that leaders often fall victim to what she calls wooden-headedness. Wooden-headedness. It's a great word. Assessing a situation in terms of preconceived fixed notions while ignoring any contrary signs. They become so hyper-focused on managing the immediate calamity or war that they lose all capacity for strategic pivot, leading directly to their own political or imperial self-destruction. Does that ring a bell? Do you see that going on now? All right, let's go now to the second scholar that I pulled out, Robert Jervis. Now, he comes from a perspective of cognitive psychology and misperception, and his core concept you can call tunnel vision and cognitive overload in foreign policy decision making. So this is very relevant. So his key argument is in perception and misperception in international politics. Jervis explores how international crises and military threats act as massive psychological distractions for world leaders. When a leader's attention is entirely consumed by an unfolding conflict, their cognitive bandwidth shrinks. They filter out vital information regarding other potentially more critical domestic or global issues. And Jervis demonstrates that this hyper-focus on a single crisis causes leaders to miscalculate broader realities, leading to massive policy failures and ultimately destroy their own political standing. Folks, does that ring a bell? Is that what's happening? These scholars talk about real stuff. Let's go to the next one, Paul Kennedy. And Paul Kennedy, he has a concept that's nice to call imperial overstretch. And his core concept is the strategic distraction of peripheral conflicts, draining core stability. Well, here's his key argument. in The Rise and Fall of the Great Powers. It's a great title. Kennedy introduces the concept of imperial overstretch, and he argues that world leaders frequently get caught up in a trap where they are forced to manage constant escalating crises and military engagements abroad. And these conflicts serve as a massive distraction from the foundational economic and structural health of the nation. You thought this was focused? You thought this was just relating to Donald Trump? This has been going on for a long time. It's constant. It happens. So, from Kennedy's point of view, by focusing resources and political capital on these external crises instead of their core domestic priorities, leaders inadvertently trigger a slow, structural self-destruction of their own power base. Okay? I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. These scholars are talking about stuff that happened historically, but it's like they're all talking about stuff that's happening today. The next one, this will be the last scholar I introduce, is really interesting. Jack S. Levy. Now, Jack Levy, you might consider him from him having a diversionary war and domestic miscalculation approach. Now, his core concept is the blowback and political self-destruction of diversionary tactics. And his key argument is, while traditional diversionary war theory focuses on leaders using external conflicts to distract the public, Levy's extensive analytical work focuses heavily on the immense risk of leader miscalculation. Now, there's a point that I want to sort of raise here. He talks about traditional diversionary war theory. Are you getting that? Meaning there's a whole branch of political science dealing with diversionary war. So this is something that's very big in political science. This type of thing happens. Excuse me. Okay, now Levy, he highlights how elites who attempt to use or manipulate international crises to shift attention often find themselves completely consumed and trapped by the very monster they engaged with. The operational demands of the war quickly outgrow the initial political intent, entirely distracting the leadership from pressing structural issues at home, resulting in severe domestic blowback and political ruin for the leader when the distraction fails to deliver a clean victory. Friends, are these four scholars hitting home to you right now? It's like they are talking directly about the exact situation that President Donald Trump is in right now. So the key takeaway from looking at these four scholars is that the common thread among these scholars is that attention is a finite strategic resource. It's a resource. And when an external actor or an unfolding calamity successfully forces a leader into purely reactive short-term crisis management mode, well, then the leader loses the ability to govern proactively, making political self-destruction almost inevitable. So friends, that is exactly why President Donald Trump must talk about disclosure. Because if he doesn't, his political destruction becomes inevitable. He needs to win. He needs to change the way the topics are being dished out to him. And keeping focused on the war and bombing this place or sending weapons to that place is not going to save anything. It's not going to solve anything. And scholars have been studying this type of thing for a long time, and so many presidents, so many national leaders have been caught up in this exact phenomenon. So when you look at what's going on right now, don't say, oh my gosh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, this war is this way, that war is that way. No. There's only one thing he needs to do, which is to totally pivot away from the wars and talk about disclosure. Get the entire conversation to be somewhere else. And the week that is absolutely best to happen, I'm not saying it will happen, so don't tell people I'm making a prediction. I'm just saying the best, most optimal time that he's ever going to have, or probably any president is ever going to have, to bring up disclosure is the third week of this July 2026. That gives the following week an opportunity to be the chaos week for media and social media and the news and the markets. And then starting in August, 1st of August, he can start posturing. And that's really, really important. You have to do the posturing in order to keep control of the talking agenda. And that's where you have to sort of start that, and that will help enable him to break away from the destructive path of just dealing with the wars, which are not going to be resolved anytime soon. So anyway, so that's not my prediction. It's more of my statement saying that if he has people in the White House high up that are talking to him, and if they are watching this spotlight, this is the advice, and that's the reason for the advice. Okay? So that's that. Now what I'd like to do is to pivot a little bit and to show you some UAP footage, and then to talk about the reason why this is so important. Now this is not, as you know, we have pioneered how to take video recordings of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UFOs, and we have shown people how to do it. What kind of cameras do you use, how to modify cameras to make them infrared and to shoot at 120 frames a second, and so on. Well, the government, the Pentagon, has been releasing tranches of UFO photos every week or so. And this is very important because clearly they're building up to a disclosure moment. They haven't crossed the Rubicon. They haven't crossed the border where disclosure becomes inevitable, but they're getting better at it. They're clearly setting the agenda. So somebody is setting the agenda, and it really looks like they're moving in a July direction, this July. At least they're trying. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it looks like they're trying. So the big things are, there was a major press conference with David Grush, Leslie Kean, and a whole bunch of others in Washington last month. And then there was the release of Spielberg's movie, Disclosure Day. And that has become a worldwide very popular movie. It's grossed over $200 billion. I mean, it's doing really well. And then we have had week after week after week of these UFO releases from the defense, the Department of War, the Pentagon. And so, and they're getting better. They were like, they used to be like really fuzzy, things like that. And some of the physics professors that are classically up on the podcast circuit say, this is just fuzzy stuff. Why don't I see a clearer photo? Clearly the photos are getting clearer and clearer and better and better. Now obviously they have really good photos, but they're gradually moving it up. So here's one that they just released and last week, and it was pretty interesting. I have it. I'm going to show it to you once at the normal speed, and then I slowed it down 50%, so you can see it slow. And one of the things you're going to clearly see is that it's clear. It's a really odd-shaped UFO. Obviously, the UFOs don't worry about aerodynamics. So this is a clearly obvious one. And these are ones where the Pentagon is absolutely saying these are unidentified aerial phenomena that we do not explain. That means they're not aircraft that are, you know, from our nation or any other nation. Anyway, take a look at this one. All right, so we're back, and all right. So I noticed that my audio was not coming through during the time. So anyway, you could see it. It was done sort of slow, and then it was bigger. So I'm looking at the chat. Some people are saying they're blimps, and this is balloons that have ion engines. A bunch of balloons tied together. It's not an alien craft. Guys, come on, be real. That's not a bunch of balloons. I mean, anybody can see, but to actually say, oh, it's just a bunch of balloons, you might as well call it swamp gas. These are the point is that these UAPs are getting clearer and clearer in the Defense Department or the Department of War's own stuff. So that's the important part. Okay, and anyway, one second. Okay, there was something in my eye, I had to get it out. Okay, so, all right, so what we're talking about now is that it's very clear that the consistent complaints that have been made by mainstream scholars, which is, it's just a fuzzy thing. If there's UFOs, we should see clear photos. You're starting to see them. Now, in the collection of UFOs that were released in the latest tranche of UFO stuff, they had other ones that were really interesting and really clear as well. It also looks like they're using a lot of infrared for capturing these things, the same as we use infrared. So you're not getting all the colors and everything. So our idea of telling you to use infrared and at high frame rates, that was a good thing. So what you can really see from these pictures is that clearly somebody in the Defense Department or the Department of War is clearly moving in the direction of a disclosure moment. That doesn't mean it's going to happen in July, but somebody is prepping it so that it could happen in July. Now that one video alone should have been a game stopper. It should have been, game over. That one video alone should have stopped everything and everybody and saying, holy Moses, because it was clearly not something that is a human-built craft. But it didn't. Many people in our audience may never have even seen it before. So these things are coming out, and as of about couple of weeks ago, over 1 billion people had gone to that Pentagon website and downloaded and looked at those UFO videos. So clearly, there's only 8 billion people on the planet, and over 1 billion of them, 1 billion with a B, have looked at those things. So clearly there's a tremendous interest. And the very fact that you're not getting that in the mainstream news, you're not seeing it on CNN or BBC, you're not seeing it. That should tell you something. That should tell you something. People don't want you to see it. The very fact that over 1 billion people have been looking at it means it's the most popular news story on the planet. And you're not seeing reports of that on the mainstream news. What? That tells you something. There's tremendous amount of control that's struggling right now. There are people that don't want this disclosure thing to happen, and there are extraterrestrials that don't want this disclosure thing to happen. Now, we've always talked about there being good ETs and bad ETs. The bad ETs are the very authoritarian ETs that have direct written agreements with the United States government to allow them to operate here with a free will choice to do experiments, as they call them, but what that actually is the largest human trafficking operation on the planet. And in exchange for tech transfer. So they're giving technology to the U.S. government to allow the U.S. government to shoot down ET ships. Those are the good ETs. And when they shoot down a ship, they give the occupants to the bad ETs to do whatever they do, and they torture them. And then they give the ships get taken to places for examination and reverse engineering, because the U.S. the Defense Department wants the tech, and the bad ETs are helping them with reverse engineering that tech, and the U.S. government really wants that. So that's the bad ET side. The good ETs don't want any of that type of stuff to happening. They want it all to stop. And they didn't want to help the U.S. government with weapons development. That's why the U.S. government chose to work with the bad ETs in the first place. The good ETs said, we want to help you, but we can handle the defense needs. We don't want to help militarize you. That's not going to help the situation. So the U.S. government decided against that, and that's how the arrangement came about the way it is now. So we're trying to get a free will decision on the part of the masses to pivot to align themselves towards the good ETs, and because right now the free will agreement only deals with some of the very top elite. But if you can get the masses to pivot, then that supersedes the free will agreement that was made by some of the elite, and then the good ETs can intervene. That's the game plan. That's what we're trying. Anyway, our ET board meetings is a desperate attempt. Well, it's not desperate, actually. It's our attempt to show you how much the ETs, the good ETs, want to talk with you. They want to interact with you. That's the reason for the ET board meetings, to show you how it's done, to show you that you can't ever say that they're not trying. They're really trying, but this really is a prison planet. It really is. And to break everybody out of the prison planet when the entire infrastructure is set up by the prison authorities, that's hard. So there will be a moment when world attention will be focused on Farsight. You can introduce yourself to people only once. So we're really focusing on getting everything set up. All right, everybody. That's what I wanted to talk with you about today. And we've been going on, let me see, we've been going on for just about an hour, so that's actually pretty good. So we're working on the next Major Mysteries release, which is Prometheus Part 2. And then we're also working on another Conversations with Harvey. And we're doing an upgrade that I don't really want to tell you about because it's going to be so amazing. I want it just to happen. But you're going to be seeing a flood of Newsphere videos, short summary Newsphere videos, taken to a completely new level, and a flood of the Sovereign series, which is our visual novels that we've started. And you're going to be seeing that during the month of July. So I want to explain a little bit about that when it actually happens. So we've got all of the basic stuff out so you can see it, what's coming, but the quantity that we'll be releasing by the end of July will be really surprising for you. And the reason we're doing this is we're gearing up for one of two things. A, we want all that material to be available for when the disclosure process does get kicked off, because that's when so many people will be there. And we want the material to be there and to go viral if the disclosure process does not get kicked off as well. So if Donald Trump gets overwhelmed, like our scholars say, so many national leaders get overwhelmed, and he postpones the disclosure moment, then we want all of our stuff to add extra pressure to the entire process. On the other hand, if the disclosure process does get kicked off in July, then all that stuff will be necessary to help explain the whole story to the masses. So we're really pushing forward for this to be a very pregnant moment. All right, everybody. I'm so glad for you to be here. I want to thank you so much. If you've not yet subscribed to FarsightPrime.com, trust me, we really need you to do that. So this is stuff you can't get anywhere else, and it is not even remotely possible for us to publish this stuff on YouTube. By the way, there was somebody in the comments during the chat here, during the live stream chat, that was talking about how a lot of people, especially some remote viewers that are not part of Farsight, are talking more and more and more about the death traps. I was having a very interesting conversation with Jeff Mara. Now, Jeff Mara just had an interview with me on the Jeff Mara podcast that was just released. And we're going to put a link to that in the description area for this video. And this video will have an edited version as well as the live premiere discussion. And the interesting thing is at the end of the interview, when the cameras stopped recording, he and I continued to talk. And he was talking about the content that he was developing for his new book. He has interviewed hundreds of people that have had near-death experiences in really in-depth types of ways. There's probably nobody that's done it as in-depth as he has done it, and publicly, each interview as like he has done it. And he was going through how he is using statistics and tables to bring it all together, and he's getting help with AI to help assemble everything. And he was getting really interesting percentages. And one of the things that came across in his conversation was with these people who have near-death experiences is that they report a hugely common experience to see so many people who have died who are sort of in a state of being stunned, and they just are disoriented and they're just walking around. Their physical bodies have died, but they didn't just sort of snap out of it and just say, here I am, and go off and start doing their normal stuff. They were just sort of stumbling around, lost souls, you might want to call them. And all of them had experienced the thing where they died, they saw the light, they got sucked into the light, and so on. And what struck me is that whole process is so tremendously aligned with what we've been telling you about the death traps. What happens is you die, you see the light, you get sucked into the light. It's tech, guys, it's tech. In real life, there's no light that you get sucked into. That light that you get sucked into is technology, and once you get sucked into it, you get zapped with an electric bolt that's way higher voltage than any lightning bolt, and it stuns you. They cannot kill you. It is impossible to kill an ISBE, an immortal spiritual being, a soul, whatever you want to call it. It's impossible for you to die, but they can stun you. They can lie to you, they can trap you, they can enslave you, but they cannot kill you. Anyway, so the person gets sucked into this light, and the more you struggle against it, the more you get stuck like fly trap, like fly paper, and then they zap you, and that produces this almost universal experience of people being stunned and they're wandering about. And Jeff Mara was describing that so clearly. Now, he wasn't associating it with the death traps, but in my own mind, I looked at that and I said, whoa, that's a really good confirmation of exactly what we were saying happens. So it's not that people get zapped and suddenly they're immediately okay. They get zapped and they're stunned and they go wandering about, and then there's a reprocessing that happens afterwards. Okay? Anyway, I hope Jeff actually publishes that book, because it's going to be such a valuable book. But I do want you to know that other people have now started talking about the death traps. Something that we started here at Farsight, and thank goodness other people are starting to talk about it. So, that's a good thing. All right. Now, the whole idea is that with disclosure, you eventually get all this stuff coming out, and you get to a point where if everybody knows about it, you can start avoiding them. You can start evading the end. The death traps are not inevitable. You don't have to go towards the light. You can pivot and go someplace else. But you have to know about it in advance, and that widespread discussion of it makes it possible. In addition, a widespread discussion of it allows some of the best, most brilliant minds on the planet, and trust me, there are brilliant minds on this planet, to start focusing on the death traps and start inquiring about how to dismantle them, how to locate them, how to dismantle them, how to dismantle the tech. You need everybody working on that. And that can happen after disclosure. That's one of the great reasons for disclosure. So I was so pleased to see that people in the chat are talking about that. And I was so pleased to see Jeff Mara assembling content for his hopefully soon to be released book. I hope he finishes writing it and gets it out there, because that'd be a great book. It's more evidence of everything we've been talking about, and this is ultimately leading towards freedom. Literally, the dismantling of the prison, the dismantling of the death traps, and freeing everybody. And it all starts with learning how to really identify who the good ETs are and how to start communicating. Okay, everybody. Love you all. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, and you'll be seeing some releases happening this week, of course, but you'll be seeing me again next week. Spotlight, and see you then.